Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku left Japan to prove everyone wrong part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗧𝗵𝗲 from Wattpad. So let's start the video. Can I be a hero even without a quirk? A young middle school boy asked, hoping for a positive answer. Under his eyes were clear bags that were the results of his lack of sleep. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 looked at the kid in empathy. The world's dangerous kid, you can't become a hero without a quirk. Maybe be a police officer or something. It's a fine profession that pays well. And with that, 𝗬𝗵𝗲 left the boy alone in the roof. His eyes lacked the shine that it once had. Quirkless, why am I so unlucky? Izuku Midoriya, one of the 4% in the world who didn't have a quirk. The other 16% were old people who lived long enough to see 80% of the world's population with quirks. He looked at his burnt, crinkly and slightly damp notebook. If you really want a quirk that bad, take a swan dive off the roof and pray you'll be born with one in your next life. Looking down the railing, he contemplated for a bit before deciding that it wasn't worth it. Why was Japan such a harsh environment? Well, at least to those like him, weak, defenseless, quirkless. Izuku let out a loud sigh and headed down the building. He took out a small device from his bag that he made at home. It was a tiny explosive. He designed the item to be just like 𝐭𝐿's explosions. Who needs quirks anyways? Handicaps, he mumbled, looking at his device, thinking of multiple ways to improve it. 𝗕𝗶𝗯𝗹𝗵, I know, amazing sound effects. Izuku looked to his right. Buildings were damaged, reporters everywhere and civilians in distraught. He made his way through and asked the nearest person, "What's happening?" An old man in his late 30s answered, "A villain appeared. Poor kid became a hostage, but none of the heroes are helping." Izuku looked at the scene and his eyes widened at the sight of a familiar tuft of blonde hair. Making sure not to react rashly, he looked around and saw no heroes rushing in to help. Izuku growled under his breath. He grabbed a remote in his bag and quickly ran in, getting to the sludge monster and throwing his bag. When the bag got near the sludge monster's face, Izuku pressed the remote and all his mini devices blew up. "I don't need your help, Deku." Bakugo yelled, slightly slurring due to the sludge's hold. With the small distraction of the devices, Bakugo fired up his quirk and got the monster to loosen his grip. The next thing you know, a loud scream was heard, "Do not fear, for I am here." In one loud punch, the sludge monster was blown away, changing the weather. 𝗬𝗵𝗲 looked at Izuku, who didn't care to meet his eye but rather trying to pick up what was left of his bag. The pro heroes from the sidelines were either congratulating Bakugo for having a strong quirk while the others scolded Izuku for being reckless. A reporter got to Izuku and placed a mic near his face. "Hey kid, what was the explosion from your bag?" the reporter asked, curious of the small stunt. Izuku showed what was left of his roughed up and blown up bag. "Just devices that I made, nothing special," he mumbled quietly, but it was enough for the camera to catch. Without hearing any more from the crowd, Izuku left quickly, and on his way home, he was met with a certain skinny blonde young man. Izuku looked at 𝗬𝗵𝗲 with a dead stare. "What? I saw your courage, and because of that, if you say something along the lines of I can become a hero or something, then I'm out." "What?" "I was going to say, would you like a chance to become a hero? Didn't you say that I couldn't become a hero without a quirk?" 𝗬𝗵𝗲 coughed. "Well, yes, but I can give you a chance." 𝗬𝗵𝗲, "I apologize, but I have to refuse whatever chance that is. I'll be a hero without a quirk." Izuku walked past the shocked hero and arrived home, where he was welcomed by his crying mother with a hug. "Izuku, I saw the news. Are you okay?" 𝗕𝗏 said in between tears and sniffling. Izuku smiled gently and returned the hug. "Yeah, I might need a new bag though," he chuckled as 𝗕𝗏 looked at her son, who had multiple ash patches from the explosions. 𝗕𝗏 cleaned up Izuku's wounds and fed her son his favorite meal after dinner. Izuku walked to his room and dropped the scrap metal pieces in the bag that was tinted with burn spots and parts that were barely usable. He looked at his 𝗬𝗵𝗲 posters and merchandises before taking all those down, putting them in a box that he kicked under his bed. "If the world could live previously without quirks, then why do we need them now?" he said with new determination, opening his drawer with metal parts and making new and improved contraptions. "He's only here because of that one reporter. He was in the support class before, right? Why is he in one?" Quirkless brat. Izuku held 𝗧𝗵𝗲𝗃 shoulders, who was ready to use her babies to blast those students. "May, It's fine, Izuku said to the pink-haired mechanic 𝗧𝗵𝗲 huffed. They don't know what they're talking about, Izuku. You got here using your own wits, she said, glaring at the group of students who were gossiping about Izuku. Shinso and Kaminari walked up to them. I swear to F, if I hear another baseless insult about Zuzu, I'm gonna fry them like chickens, Denki said, slightly ticked off. Hitoshi nodded. It's ridiculous, the tired blob agreed. The four were outliers in this school. Mei wasn't hated, but she wasn't accepted into groups for being eccentric. People stayed clear of Hitoshi because of his villainous quirk, and people thought of Denki as an idiot. Let's go eat, I'm hungry, Hitoshi said, letting Denki rest his head on his shoulder. The other two agreed and went to the roof but stopped at the door. Momo crossed her arms. Why is he even in our class? I'm trying to be realistic. He's a burden, he doesn't have a quirk, she said, eating her bento. Mina looked at Momo in annoyance. It's toxic to talk bad about someone, not swag, she said, snacking while on her phone. Uraraka shrugged. Might be toxic, but still, I agree he's so annoying though, she said, looking through Bakugo's Instagram like the stalker she was. Hagekure agreed with the three. Mina looked disgusted and continued to ignore the girls. A few sparks came out of Denki, but luckily, Hitoshi stopped the Pikachu before he electrocuted everyone on the roof. Izuku stopped and walked away. Hitoshi and Mei knew that he needed space. Denki, while respecting Izuku's wish to be alone, made a grand entrance of sending a spark of electricity towards Momo, barely missing her cheek. Kaminari, what was that for? Momo squealed, falling to the ground from shock. Uraraka and Hagekure bombarded Denki with insults or just words of confusion. Did you missed? Mina said, dusting herself off before walking towards Denki. Hitoshi and Mei group chat nicknames. F sleep. Hitoshi Shinso 𝗵𝗃𝗲, Denki Kaminari dancing alien, Mina Ashido cinnamon bun. Izuku Midoriya 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗲. Hantus Zero F sleep 11:38 I'm gonna stab someone if these hoes won't shut up. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗲 11:38 bro, have you seen my class? Dancing alien 11:39 It about your class Hito, but ours is a mess. Your dad's basically letting Bakugo run wild. F sleep 11:40 AO. Sent 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗲 11:41 video 1 MP4 sent F sleep 11:43 PM. I take back all my words. Your class seems like SHT 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗲 11:44 PM. Yeah. Mans be screaming our eardrums off. Oh god, now he's going after Zuzu. Fuck. F sleep 11:47 AM. 𝗬𝗓𝗔𝗵𝗲 F that Pomeranian up. If he hurts our bean dancing alien 11:50 AM. Jesus, he finally got off our bean dancing alien. Changes cinnamon bun to cinnamon bean. F sleep 11:50 AM. Izu, you good? 00 am cinnamon bean as good as I can be, so not really. Anyways, y'all down for some food? Dancing alien 12:01 PM. Hell yeah. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗲 12:01 PM. Yes sir. Sparkles. F sleep 12:03 PM. OFC we stopping by a coffee place, right? 𝗵𝗃𝗲𝗵𝗃𝗲 12:05 PM. Proly, I want a latte on. Dancing alien 12:06 PM. Same pensive face, wish we could Uber Eats to school during class. 07 PM. Cinnamon bean wait, does Uber Eats bring coffee? Dancing alien 12:08 PM. Dunno, but if they do, I'd buy some just to deadass, just to bribe Aizawa sensei. They continued texting while class was going on, and funnily enough, no one got caught in 1A's case. It was because Bakugo was bitching onto everyone, and in Shinso's case, his teacher just didn't pay attention. Ida noticed that Izuku was texting and looked at him. Midoriya, texting during class is very inappropriate. It's class time, he said, doing the choppy motion with his right arm. Izuku put his phone away and gave a closed-eyed smile. Sorry Ida, I was checking my mom's text. He lied. Denki rolled his eyes. Oh my god, Ida, Aizawa sensei isn't even teaching right now, let the boy be on his phone, Mina said, her cheek on her hand as she looked at Ida, who couldn't say a rebuttal. Uraraka frowned. Mina, that's mean. Ida-kun was just trying to make sure Deku doesn't get in trouble, she said, defending. Sonic's reboot. Todoroki sighed. What pointless chatter, he muttered, looking at Mina. Denki shrugged. Okay, daddy issues, he said, earning a glare from the bicolored male. Zero stifled a laugh while Kirishima looked at Denki shocked. Bro, that was unmanly, he said, surprised at Denki's comment. Izuku went outside to go to the bathroom. Unknowingly, when he finished, there was a few students waiting for him outside the bathroom. Minoma looked at Bakugo before looking at Izuku. Oh hey, it's the guy who has a better potential than Mr. Anger Issues, the posh boy said, aggravating Bakugo. That nerd has more potential than me, Bakugo yelled, glaring at Izuku before grabbing his collar and shoving him to the wall. "What the F did I do?" Izuku didn't react. He got used to Bakugo's random outbursts at him. Monoma looked sympathetic towards Izuku before ripping the ash blonde of him. "Don't you need to go to the bathroom?" he said. Bakugo sked and stormed inside. Izuku nodded at Monoma. "Thanks," he said, giving a smile. Monoma gave a smile of pity. "Why'd you let him do that?" "I'm only talking to you because you aren't as bad as some of the stupid one," the bright blonde said, putting his hands in his pockets. Izuku shrugged. "I can bear with it for a few more weeks," he said, walking to his class. Monoma was left confused. "What does that mean?" he mumbled before shrugging and walking to his class. Previously, Izuku shrugged. "I can bear with it for a few more weeks," he said, walking to his class. Monoma was left confused. "What does that mean?" he mumbled before shrugging and walking to his class. Izuku's POV: I look at the time on my phone. I was waiting for my bros and hoes at the gate since Aizawa-sensei let us off early. Hitoshi said he needed to grab something. Denki went with him. Siro was just slow at packing up and Mina was called by the girls in our class, so I went ahead and waited for them outside. I hear a few whispering and chuckling, but I ignore it. It's not worth it to waste my time on insignificant trash. As I wait, I get a notification that I missed from my dad. Mail giver earlier at 2:01 p.m. You're probably at school, but when you get home, your mother has something to say. Oh, by the way, she'll be late, so get home at like 6 or 8. Stay safe, kiddo. Swag. How did I miss this though? Oh wait, yeah, never mind. I had my phone on silent since Sonic Reboot told me it was inappropriate. This was when I realized that my group chat with the chaotic pyromaniac hoes was blowing up. I laugh knowing how much they'll talk. I see Mina, Denki, Hitoshi, and Siro running. I thought before I was suddenly pounced on. "Sorry dude, I couldn't break when I went beer," Denki said. Getting up and laughing, I burst out laughing as Hitoshi checked if Denki was high. The 5 of them went to a cat cafe. It was one of those special cafes that let you try to make your coffee if you want to try. Hitoshi refused to ruin his coffee, so he waited for his to be made by an actual worker and played with cats with Denki, while Siro had the ball to try making his own. Liked by sleep-deprived 𝗕𝗁𝗂𝗵𝗏 and 341 more. Izuku liked by sleep-deprived 𝗕𝗁𝗂𝗵𝗏 and 341 more. Izuku Midoriya at Tape Dude. Siro giving me anxiety while not even trying. Pensive face. View all 50 comments. Sleep-deprived 𝗕𝗁𝗂𝗵𝗏 tilt a bit more and man's about to spill. 𝗵𝗏 F skilled Mina. Why is that so pretty? Tape Dude 0. Hell yeah, show off my talent. Explosion murder. The hell? Where'd you go without us? Dadzawa. Miss Girl acting like he was supposed to be invited. The barista clapped. "You are a great one, child," she said, giving a thumbs up to Siro, who enjoyed his latte that he decorated himself. Everyone was enjoying their time at the cafe. By the time I saw Aizawa-sensei's comment, I almost spat out my coffee but swallowed it. Mina laughed her butt off while the other 3 continued to make jabs at Bakugo even though he wasn't here. I laughed. "It's been a while since we just chilled," I said, leaning my head on my palm while drinking my coffee. Mina nodded. "You tell me. My mom's been so busy that I had to help and now my back hurts," she complained, stretching her arms. Shinso nodded. "Training with Dad and Papa basically made me deaf," he said, tiredly rubbing his eyes. Denki smiled. "Me and Siro kept getting dragged around by the Baku squad, so we couldn't really do much," he said as Siro nodded. "Bakugo's not the worst, but like, he won't let us talk sometimes," Siro said, sighing at the memories. I waved parting ways with my friends before walking home. I already texted Aizawa-sensei about it so he wouldn't wonder why I wasn't at the dorm. I opened the door to see a familiar black-haired man, his scarred lips and green eyes. "Aizu, you're home," Dad said, patting my head. I looked up at him and smiled lazily. "Got the milk, Dad?" I asked. He laughed before sweat dropping. "Was I supposed to bring milk though?" He looked behind him. Mom laughed and shook her head. "No. Don't worry, I bought groceries yesterday," she said, reassuring the softy of a gang leader. Dad smiled brightly. "So what's the news that you wanted to tell me?" I asked, hugging my dad, who's been in America for years minus visiting during summer and holidays. Both of my parents gave a gentle smile. "Izuku, how'd you like to?" Dad smiled brightly. "So what's the news that you wanted to tell me?" I asked, hugging my dad, who's been in America for years minus visiting during summer and holidays. Both of my parents gave a gentle smile. "Izuku, how'd you like to move back to America?" Hisashi said with a smile. Although he wanted to live with his son and wife, if his son wanted to stay then he'd have no objections since he wants his son to be happy. Izuku stood shocked. He was happy but felt conflicted. "Can I think about it, Dad?" he asked, Hisashi giving a nod and grinning. "Let's eat dinner first. You can tell me your decision by the end of the week," he said, his son nodding, and all three Midoriyas going to eat. Izuku's POV: getting up for mornings isn't my thing. I'd rather stay in and just pass out, but unfortunately, I cannot do that. I got up from my heaven-sent furniture and got ready for another day at UA. I finish getting ready and head downstairs, meeting my dad who was currently passed out on the couch, probably from watching movies all night, and my mom who was cooking breakfast. I smile at the smell of my favorite food. Katsudan. I walk over to the kitchen counter and sat down. "Morning, Mom," I greeted. She had a sweet smile and placed my bowl of katsudan. I quickly wolfed down the food and kissed my mom's cheek before running outside and getting to school. While getting to the gate, I heard the mention of my name making me stop. RD POV. That nerd shouldn't be in the hero course. A quirkless loser like him was fine in the support course. Bakuho. I agree, although his support items work really well. Other than those, he contributes nothing to the class. Todoroki. A few words of agreement were shared. Izuku's goggles on his head fell down onto his neck when he looked down, a glint of anger in his eyes holding it in. Izuku walked in through the gate with a bright smile. "I contribute nothing but my items. Didn't those items help your quirks from permanently damaging your body?" he said with a kind smile that contradicted his tone of voice. The ones who were making a fuss went silent. Ida coughed up and did his robotic motion. "Midoriya. Where were you?" "We, students of the prestigious UA, are supposed to be in the dorms," he said, the others now joining in and asking about Izuku's whereabouts. "Yesterday." Izuku dropped the smile and replied coldly, "Why should I tell you? It's none of your business." The class minus Izuku's besties were shocked. The bright and smiling mechanic in their class just glared at them like they were the ones who murdered his entire bloodline. Shinso saw the commotion and walked in, whistling with a smirk. "Yo, Izuku, looks like you got yourself a hate cub," he said, half joking but half not. Mina smiled mischievously. "Just like how there's villains and heroes, he needs the hate club to balance out his massive fan club," she said, Denki nodding along while Siro made mini comments on how shocked 1A looked. Bakugo irked and rushed up, grabbing Izuku by the neck and slamming him down onto the ground, using his quirk in the process. Siro reacted quickly and used his quirk to restrain Bakugo. Izuku coughed up BLD, trying to regain his ability to breath as his neck was now scarred and partly burned. Mina yelled at Todoroki to make some ice cubes, which he reluctantly did. Mina was holding the ice to her friend's neck while Shinso went to call for his dad. Bakugo burned off Siro's tape, which resulted in Siro's elbows getting injured. Luckily, before Bakuho could hurt any more people, Aizawa had arrived and used his restraint on Bakugo. His eyes red by using his quirk, but it also showed a large amount of anger. "Ashido. Kaminari, get Midoriya to Recovery Girl's office," he said. Mina and Denki complied without being need to be told twice. Aizawa stared into Bakugo's eyes. He was furious. Class 1A felt a shiver in their spine. Although they didn't do anything, well, it's because they didn't do anything, they just let it happen. "Get to class now, we're going to have a discussion," Aizawa said. His voice sounded like he had snapped. "Get to class now, we're going to have a discussion," Aizawa said. His voice sounded like he had snapped. Izuku laid in Recovery Girl's office, his breath still unsteady. Mina, Hanta, Hitoshi and Denki were all worried. They understood Izuku was strong, even without a quirk, but his physical body wasn't the sturdiest. Recovery Girl smiled at the four friends. "You four should get going to class. I'll make sure Midoriya heals up and gets a good rest," she said. Not wanting the four to miss classes, Class 1A was silent. No one dared to open their mouths after the whole incident. Aizawa did nothing but stare, knowing full well that if he was the first one to speak, he'd end up losing his job by possibly hurting the teens in front of him. "Sir, what will we be discussing?" Ida tried to break the intense and heavy silence. Aizawa didn't sigh. He just spoke in the most despise you tone of voice. "Tell me why Bakugo was using his quirk on a fellow student," he ordered. The class was once again silent. This time, instead of being intimidated, they just felt the pressure of fear. Aizawa tried to be patient, but the silence pissed him off. "Well, 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝐻𝐼 insulted B. Bakugo first," Uraraka stuttered quietly. Some of the people in the class looked at Uraraka like she was insane, trying to lie to Aizawa when he was angry. Before Aizawa could ask if there was witnesses to vouch for her, Shinso busted in and glared at Bakugo. "Oh, I blasty," he yelled, even though he was tired. He gathered his energy to express how pissed off he was. Bakugo looked at the purple-haired insomniac. What did you see? He stopped. Shinso's brainwashing was now at work. Aizawa nodded at his son got adopted after certain events. His last name is now Shinso Aizawa. Why? It just cuz and glared at Uraraka before speaking to Bakugo. What happened? Bakugo's eyes were blank, his lips moved to speak. Part of the class talked behind that nerd. Then he responded, I knew he was looking down on us even though he was quirkless, so I got pissed and attacked him. He said, Denki was being held back by Siro and Mina while Shinso was cracking his knuckles just to make things clear so people won't be like, but Izuku didn't look down on them. Shinso's quirk, brainwash, makes people tell the truth to what the question was asked, and the answer will vary depending on each person because it's a mental state thing. Plus Bakugo's inferiority complex. Yeah, okay, sorry for interrupting this subpar fanfic. Aizawa told Shinso to release his quirk, which he did. Bakugo was in a daze. What the hell happened? He yelled, his fists out sparking a bit. Aizawa glared at him, removing Bakugo's quirk until he blinked. No one spoke as Ishido, Siro and Kaminari sat down much to their displeasure while Shinso went back to his class and Aizawa went to visit Midoriya. Izuku sat there, annoyed as hell. He would love to be cursing death upon Bakugo right now, but unfortunately his voice won't work. Recovery Girl told him that it'll heal in a day or two, although he couldn't verbally hex Bakugo. He was thinking of multiple ways to use machines to F with him, completely unaware that his teacher had been watching him glare at the wall in front of him for the past hour. Problem child, what did that wall do to you? Izuku snapped out of his trance and smiled tiredly at Aizawa and grabbed a piece of paper near his bed with a marker. Hello Aizawa-sensei, he wrote down. Aizawa looked at him with sympathy. Does it hurt? Not much, but not being able to speak. Aizawa sat at the chair next to the bed. Why didn't you tell any teachers that your class was talking behind your back? He asked, genuinely curious since he knew that Midoriya wasn't a pushover. I recently found out too, tbh. Plus seems kinda childish to talk about trivial things to teachers. Aizawa frowned. It's not trivial, Midoriya no Izuku. If you feel uncomfortable, tell us. You're one of the few children that we staff can count on, he said, feeling a bit disappointed. Izuku saw the genuine concern on his face and let out a breath of relief. Okay Aizawa-sensei. Aizawa patted his head. Get better, kid. I need to go sleep in the class so they don't do anything, he said, earning a bright smile from the green-haired boy as he felt. The smiling boy looked at the door, his mind thinking on how weak he felt. He felt powerless and useless. Izuku looked at his phone and somehow ended up looking through his photos. He smiled at the photo of him taking a selfie with Denki while in the back. You could see Siro taping Shino onto the lamppost while Mina was taking pics. He scrolled to his first ever photo on the phone and his heart clutched at the memory. It was a photo that his dad took using his phone to celebrate that day. Izuku had won the building competition in America. It was the first summer that he and his mom didn't live with his dad. He was merely 7 years old, although he didn't like that his dad had to work abroad. He made friends there and he knew that his mom loved her job with her co-workers in the picture. You could see Izuku smiling brightly holding the trophy with 7 other children. They were all hugging, celebrating with Izuku. A few of them had cake on their faces while some had mud on their hands, which you can clearly see since they were holding peace signs up to the camera. Exiting his photo album, he texts his dad, I think I have my answer. The day quickly passes by. Izuku was in Recovery Girl's office the whole day because she needed to make sure his neck wouldn't leave a burn scar, and he was also taking a liquid medicine to help his throat recover, after all that drama. In the morning you would think that poor Midoriya could catch a break. No, Deku. Izuku's POV. I was about to leave the office when Bakugo burst into the room. Hell nerd, I'm under probation because of you. He yelled. Recovery Girl was out getting supplies, so I was alone. I sighed and grabbed a marker. How is this my fault? I showed him the small whiteboard. Bakugo got even more pissed. You think you're so above me that you think speaking is. He was cut off, thank God, by Kirishima patting his back. Kirishima didn't meet my eye. He was looking down. I'm guessing it was because he felt guilty. I glared and erased the writing before showing them the board again. Can you move? I need to go back to the dorm. Bakugo was about to protest when Kirishima nodded with a sad smile. Yeah, sorry bro, he said, grabbing Bakugo's shoulder and moving them aside. I got up with my bag and walked out. Don't get me wrong, Kirishima was one of those who didn't really participate in the beach talking, but he didn't think to step up. It wasn't manly of him. I walked past the common room and headed straight to my bedroom. I didn't have much decoration in my room other than some posters and my LED Hanako, Killua and Mitsuba with lamps. I do my, basically nightly, routine of texting my friends. I barely let out a chuckle as they continue to be crackheads. My peaceful time was interrupted by a knock. On my door I open it to see Uraraka and Iida. I put up my hand, telling them to wait before they speak. I grab my whiteboard and show them what is it. Iida looked uncomfortable but Uraraka gave a fake smile. Hey Deku. So about before she trailed off, my eyes became cold. No, I closed the door on their face and get back to my friends. By the time I got back, we were now on FaceTime and I couldn't stop internally wheezing. Class 1A- Mina, Siro and Denki's POV. After Uraraka and Iida got the door to the face, they went to the common room to vent. Hagakure fumed, "That's so rude." The others nodded. They wanted to confront Midoriya on his recent behavior, so they walked to his room but stopped when they heard multiple voices. "Yo, shut up, you're gonna make Zuzu die. He can't even use his voice and he's basically making him wheeze." The class was confused. "Who's that?" Uraraka asked, not recognizing the feminine voice, and was a bit jealous. Everyone shrugged as they kept listening. A few moments of silence until the class heard the Little Einstein's theme song. Half the class was weirded out while the other half was just amused. Todoroki stifled a laugh when other random songs were played. Uraraka coughed, gaining their attention. "Maybe we should talk to him tomorrow," she said, smiling but a bit irritated. The others nodded and went their separate ways. Hisashi's POV expecting that. "No, cause well I wasn't. I was smiling like an idiot, mostly because Izuku had agreed to go to America." Inko looked at me with an amused smile. "You excited to train your soon-to-be-announced heir?" she asked, giving me a hug from behind. I nodded and hugged her back. "I was worried that he'd refuse since he likes Japan and his idolized hero is here," I said. For some reason Inko looked a bit displeased. "About his idol?" she started. I raised my eyebrow. My eyes widened at the story. "What?" My voice was laced in venom. "That hero of peace said such bullshit to my talented son. I was about to commit arson and call the organization, but Inko calmed me down. It was as if time stopped and her smile became more angelic than it already was. "Darling, it's okay, our baby proved him wrong," she smiled, her forehead touching mine. I pouted and sighed. "Fair enough," I said, although I was still thinking of telling my secretary to keep an eye out for All Might. You never know. RDPOV Izuku sent an email to Principal Nizu to talk about his transfer and move. He needed to wait until he was called to the office to discuss the process. His father was already talking to Nizu with the teachers that teach 1A. Present Izuku's class was having a free PRD. Shinso, Kaminari, Ashido and Siro were the only ones other than the teachers who knew about Midoriya moving. It had already been 2 days. Izuku's voice was back, albeit it was still a bit rough and raspy. "Zuku, how's the thing going?" Denki asked, purposely being vague. Izuku smiled. "We've gotten over half of it done," he answered. Most of Class 1A were confused on what they were talking about. Siro and Mina smiled. "Let's party before that happens," Mina said, pumping her fist to the air. The four nodded. "That sounds epic," Siro replied. Momo walked up to them with a kind and gentle smile. "Is anything big happening?" she asked, curious about the reason for a party. Mina scoffed. "Yeah." The 5 of them said, only agreeing, not saying any more information. Momo waited for them to continue, but none did. They stopped looking at Momo and continued their little conversation. Iida walked up to them and did his signature choppy motion. "Midoriya. Ashido. Kamirari. Sir, it is very rude for you to ignore your fellow classmate," he said, trying to lecture them. Denki didn't have his boyfriend who would keep him calm. "We did answer her. Her question was if something was happening and we said yes," he said, knowing that it was true that they didn't ask for more other than the 4 who were chatting. The others just ignored them and spoke loudly, trying to overshadow the 4, but unfortunately for them, they didn't care. The announcement was loud and clear from school intercom. The class didn't know why Midoriya would be called. Some of them wished it was something trivial, but some wished for the opposite. Izuku smiled sadly at his friends before walking to the office. Nizu and the teachers all had a sad smile on their faces. They all gave Izuku a hug. Hisashi smiled proudly. "I'm glad to see my son is so well liked," he said, patting his son's head. Inko smiled gently. "Thank you for making my stay here bearable," Izuku said, bowing down to the principal and his not yet former teachers. Izuku was excused for the day for him to pack and get things ready. UA had announced that all first years would have a day off tomorrow. Their reason being that they believe that the students need a break by the end of the day. Class 1A saw a tall, built man holding 2 boxes. Izuku wasn't in his casual t-shirt and shorts or his uniform, but instead he was wearing a black shirt which had striped sleeves, and he was wearing ripped jeans. A appealing green-haired woman was hugging Izuku as she smiled and left. The class, or rather, Bakugo, ran to Duo and asked, "Deku, what the hell is happening?" he asked. Inko looked at him with hidden anger. Izuku didn't utter a word and continued talking to his mother. "I'll be leaving now, honey. I'll pick you up the day after tomorrow," she said, smiling brightly. Izuku nodded. He was going to stay for one more day. That was so he could spend a whole day hanging out with his friends and teachers. Yes, the principal made a reason for the teachers to hang out with him. Denki smiled brightly and ran towards Izuku, jumping onto his back, and was practically beaming. "Sleepover," Mina said, running to them. Shinso was being dragged by Siro using his tape. Bakugo was angry since he was ignored. The whole class was just bewildered. There were students who felt guilty for not stepping in, and then there were some who still felt that their reasons were justified. Izuku was wearing a green hoodie with white cargo shorts. Denki was wearing a Pikachu onesie while Hitoshi wore a purple cat onesie. Mina wore black but shorts with a pink spaghetti CRP top with a white floral cardigan. Hanta wore joggers with a black tank top. Mina and Hanta ran downstairs to get some popcorn and snacks. Hitoshi was setting the movie up while Denki and Izuku were making their comfortable fort. While they were setting up in Izuku's barren room, Mina and Siro encountered a salty Uraraka and a regretful Azui. "Where are you guys going with so much food?" Uraraka asked. She was still friendly towards people, but Siro and Mina knew it wasn't genuine. Azui looked away, grabbing what she needed and bowing towards the two before going back to her room. Uraraka was a bit taken aback but still waited for an answer. Mina and Siro walked past her and were amazed at the blanket fort that Izuku and Hitoshi had managed to create with little supplies. Mina pulled out her phone and posted, "Liked by Izuku, liked by Izuku Midoriya, Tape Dude Siro, Kaminachu, and 500. More." Mina at Izuku Midoriya at Sleep Deprived Shinso. "Y'all got some design skills. View all 300 comments. Kaminachu. I'm shocked and I watched them set it up. Tape Dude Siro, Sparkles SKILLZ Sparkles Sleep Deprived Shinso. It wasn't much. Izuku Midoriya. Happy face. Mina. Shush and take our compliments. Nail polish. Creati Red Heart. It looks very aesthetically pleasing, but it also looks a bit cheap. Uravity. Met Tape Dude Siro at Creati Love how she thinks we care. Hashtag Funovermini Sleep Deprived Shinso. Hashtag Funovermini Sleep Deprived Shinso. Also at Uravity, you're broke but probably can't even afford a decent pillow. Face with rolling eyes, raised back of hand. Izuku ignored the comments after they laughed it off and proceeded to watch movies, play games, do some karaoke, and basically just have a great time. Shinso fell asleep leaning on Izuku's back with Denki on his lap. Mina fell asleep next to Izuku while Siro was passed out with his head on Mina's lap. Aizawa saw the scene early in the morning since he were curious as to if the group were still awake. He smiled at the sight of his son and the teens he considered as his second children. He couldn't help but see the sight as adorable, so he left them to sleep a bit longer. Izuku woke up and somehow didn't feel the weight of others leaning on him, so he stood up to stretch his arms, and the next thing you know, a loud trail of groans and shrieks surprised the freckled boy. He looked down to see for either unimpressed or pouting faces. "Thanks for the wake-up, Zuku," Shinso said, getting up, rotating his neck a bit, letting out a few cracks. Denki and the other 3 followed suit and stretched their limbs. Mike busted in the room with a giant smile. "Hey little listeners. You guys awake?" he asked, literally scaring the 5 teens. Denki and Siro screamed while Mina, Shinso and Izuku just took a step back. Izuku looked at Shinso. "Is your pops supposed to be here?" he asked. Shinso shrugging. "It's the day. Get dressed so we can all get going," Mike said very excitedly. Shinso laughed and went to Denki's room with him because we all know he has some spare clothes in there. Siro and Mina went to their own rooms to get changed while Izuku closed his door and changed into his outfit. After changing, they all met up at the common room. Izuku's outfit, Izuku's outfit, Mina's outfit, Mina's outfit, Mina's outfit, Denki's outfit, Shinso's outfit, Shinso's outfit, Shinso's outfit, Siro's outfit. Mina whistled. "Y'all looking hot, my fellow platonic pals," Siro said as Mina did a little twirl. Izuku smiled. Aizawa saw them and told them to hurry up. "Come on, Namuri's gonna have a beach fit if you guys go any slower," he said. Partly serious, or at least the teens hoped. They looked at each other and shrugged and headed towards 𝗏𝗏's Chevrolet Suburban. Midnight wanted to go in her Bentley, but since 𝗏𝗏 was the only one with a car that had 9 seats, then she was fine with it. 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗪𝗏. Mike. Midnight, Mina and Denki screamed excited as 𝗏𝗏 had to drive, slightly regretting some decisions in life, but nonetheless drove to the mall. Although it was a 9-seater, there were 10 people. Eri was sitting on her brother's lap while talking with Izuku. Eri had changed her habit and ended up making new nicknames for everyone, including Izuku, Bunny. When you go to America, will you call us? Eri asked sadly. Izuku smiled brightly. Of course, princess. I'm always one call away. He said. Everyone in the car called Eri a princess because she went through a lot and deserved to be treated as one. When they arrived at the mall, you better bet that the first thing they did was follow Eri's wishes and ended up at the Build-A-Bear workshop. Why? Because she wanted to make a custom I wish you well present for Izuku. She gave him a beige teddy bear wearing a green cat hoodie, and it had a little necklace with a picture of them, Izuku, Eri, and Shinso, which they had custom made beforehand. They basically spent the whole day in the mall, going to arcades, shopping, buying food, possible getting kicked out of a Hot Topic store, gushing over Eri's new drip, buying Izuku some Remember Me gifts, and overall having a great time. Hours had passed. Eri was asleep in Aizawa's arms as the other adults were hugging Izuku. Today's your last night in Japan, huh? 𝗏𝗏, who wasn't necessarily Izuku's mentor but still one of his teachers, said, patting his head. Shinso, Mina, Shiro, and Denki were basically glued onto Izuku, refusing to let their friend go until they had to. Today was his last night in Japan. He thought, why not make the most of it? So what did these 5 dumbasses do? Well, they snuck out of UA, bought a ton of slushies, running over bridges, somehow ended up on a beach at some point, and as they got back at UA, they were a mess. Aizawa was both pissed, because he had to wake up to see who was at the gate, and relieved to see them having fun to the max. He ushered them to take a bath and sleep, which they did. Izuku smiled. He was happy to see those who care about him see him off to America. Of course, the others in Class 1A had no clue, but it's not like they would have cared. Well, that's how it seems. Mina sniffled alongside Eri. You better call us bestie, she said, ruffling Izuku's fluffy green hair. Eri nodded brightly. We'll all visit in the summer. Eri said, excited for summer to arrive even though that was months away. Izuku was touched. Hisashi felt warm that he saw his son having so many people care for him. Inko smiled as the 3 Midoriyas went inside the private plane, heading off to America. Looking at the screen in front of him, he saw a new show. Oh, seems fun, he thought. It was going to be a normal, happy sports anime. By the time he was halfway to America, he had finished the show and his face showed tears from both being sad and happy. Hisashi looked at his son, who fell asleep with tears, sweat dropping. Well, he started off, but Inko just shushed him. Let him sleep, she said, smiling, patting Izuku's head as the 2 adults fell asleep. The plane had landed. A large crowd was waiting for America's number 2 hero to arrive back, but there was a group of edgy-looking, a group of teens who were holding up a sign that said, Izuku, on it. When's the plane landing again? A girl said, looking to her friends. A boy looked at his watch. An hour. He said, looking up to see annoyed faces. You said it would be soon. Another girl said, pouting. A taller male shrugged. Who cares? We would all wait for our pal, he said. Looking ahead, all 6 teens nodded at him. True, we need our one. Now let's start the adventure of Izuku's journey with his 7 crackhead friends. Name: Izuku. Midoriya. Age: 16-18. Gender: male. Pronouns: he, him. Sexuality: pansexual. Status: single. Name: Izuku Midoriya. Age: 16-18. Gender: male. Pronouns: he, him. Sexuality: pansexual. Status: single. 6. Quirk: quirkless. 5. Quirk: quirkless. Drawback: none. Likes: weapons, his friends, hacking just to piss people off, vibing to music, playing games, going on missions, staying up late. Being a crackhead. Dislikes: homophobes, assholes, not the fun kind. Some of Class 1A: getting woken up too early. Description: although he doesn't have a quirk, he has passed hero qualifications with flying colors, earning him a hero license. Izuku is known throughout his school as the leader while also being the representative of the school, many knowing the quirkless hero. Pinpoint to name: Parker Williams. Age: 16-18. Gender: male. Pronouns: he, him. Sexuality: demisexual. Status: single. Quirk: breath. His quirk allows him to let out a breath of any gas, whether it be poison, laughing gas, sleeping gas, etc. He can breath out any gas that he's encountered before. 11. Quirk: breath his quirk allows him to let out a breath of any gas, whether it be poison, laughing gas, sleeping gas, etc. He can breath out any gas that he's encountered before. His quirk doesn't interfere with his normal speaking. His quirk will only activate when he wants to. He can change state from being gaseous to a liquid if he condenses it. Drawback: his throat gets dry and rough if he uses his quirk multiple times without a water break. If he overuses his quirk, he has trouble breathing and his neck will swell up from the different types of gas particles. Likes being lazy, wearing his face mask, oversized hoodies, wolves, his friends, drinks, candy, bombs, katanas. Dislikes life, people not saying his friends' proper pronouns, assholes not the fun kind, some of class 1A, insomnia, anxiety. Description: the one who refuses to care until something bad happens to the group. He seems cold and distant to those who don't know him, but when you get to know him, he's a tired softy who'll cuss at you if you disturb the few moments he can actually get some sleep. The gas hero, breath taker. 3 name, 𝗬𝗓𝗏 age, 16-18 gender, female pronouns, she her sexuality, lesbian status, taken by faith cult quirk. Flowers, she can emit different scents of flowers, she can grow different types of flowers out of her limbs. Quirk. Flowers, she can emit different scents of flowers. She can grow different types of flowers out of her limbs. The flower can vary from a pretty lily to a dangerous poison ivy. Drawback: limbs might feel a bit itchy or dry after a long period of quirk use. If overused, she starts coughing out flowers. Likes tending to her garden, fashion, using knives, birds, graffiti. Dislikes ballet, assholes not the fun kind, some of class 1A, her parents. Description: just like Jack, she was made fun of as a child by her classmates and her parents for having a useless quirk. Izuku and the others showed her how useful and fun her quirk was, and she ended up loving flowers. She's known as the mom of the group, the garden hero. 𝗵𝗲 4 name, faith cult age, 16-18 gender, female pronouns, she her sexuality, lesbian status, taken by 𝗬𝗓𝗏 quirk. Death stare: if she stares at someone with ill intent, they can feel it. If they look into her eyes, she can imagine them either experiencing their worst fear or for their eyes to malfunction for a few minutes. Quirk. Death stare: if she stares at someone with ill intent, they can feel it. If they look into her eyes, she can imagine them either experiencing their worst fear or for their eyes to malfunction for a few minutes. Drawback: overuse of quirk leads to dry eyes and severe headaches. Likes roller skating, playing guitar, movies, egging houses, cuddles. Dislikes kiwis, dogs, assholes not the fun kind, some of class 1A, her brother, Roach's. Description: people called her a demon when she was born, only her parents and friends accepted her. Her brother would lock her up when their parents were away. She loves her friends, and if anyone hurt them, the gaze hero. 𝗬𝗲𝗏 5 name, Wesley Contier age, 16-18 gender, male pronouns, he/him sexuality, straight status, single quirk. Cards: his quirk is an offense-type quirk. He spawns an array of cards which have different sets of numbers, and it's completely random whatever the card spawns. The type of card is in his control, though. He chooses whether it's a card deck. Quirk. Cards: his quirk is an offense-type quirk. He spawns an array of cards which have different sets of numbers, and it's completely random whatever the card spawns. The type of card is in his control, though. He chooses whether it's a card deck of weapons, his personal items, etc. Drawback: doesn't always spawn whatever he wants, but if he concentrates really hard, he can spawn whatever he wishes once before draining 90% of his energy. If he overuses his quirk, he'll start seeing hallucinations for the amount of time he overused it. Likes gambling, Izuku's cooking, sweets, scaring the SHT out of random people, summoning random prank cards to use on his friends, loves trolling kids on games. Dislikes nightmares, assholes not the fun kind, some of class 1A, getting called short, someone taking his mask. He likes sleeping with it. Description: a little troll who loves ruining people's days. He has absolutely no filter and will say what's on his mind. For better or worse, he's the chaotic baby of the group. He thinks of Izuku like his older brother who takes care of him. If you talk SHT about his friends, you better watch out because he has another set of cards for throwing. The card hero, Joker 6 name, Sean Wolf age, 16-18 gender, demigirl pronouns, they/them sexuality, asexual status, single name, Sean Wolf age, 16-18 gender, demigirl pronouns, they/them sexuality, asexual status, single quirk. Point of view: their quirk allows them to see in another person's point of view. If they concentrated hard enough, they can not only see the other person's sight but can affect their movement. When they uses their quirk, their original body is unconscious but will remain standing or whatever pose they was in drawback. Will experience terrible stomach ache and vomiting if overused. It's not a good quirk in a 3 versus 1 fight because at most, they can only see 2 people's point of view at once. More than 2 will be overusing their quirk likes sleeping, drinking water, food, reading books, swimming, music. Dislikes, people calling them by the wrong pronoun, assholes not the fun kind. Some of class 1A, their family, annoying people. Description: the tired of your SHT type of friend who'll laugh at other people's misery and just enjoy the drama. They're the sibling of the group who'll encourage fights but is too lazy to fight unless someone messes with their family, his friends. That's when they'll throw hands. The reader hero, viewer 7 name, 𝗬𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗲 age, 16-18 gender, female pronouns, she her sexuality, pansexual status, taken by 𝗓𝗫𝗁 quirk. Interference: her quirk allows her to interfere with one's train of thought or just stopping something in its tracks and changing its direction. Quirk. Interference: her quirk allows her to interfere with one's train of thought or just stopping something in its tracks and changing its direction. It can work on living and non-living things, though interfering with living things call for more precision since she doesn't want them losing their ability to think without her interference. Drawback: can have drawbacks on other people, either them losing their train of thought only happened when she didn't know how to properly use her quirk or being incapable to think for a certain amount of time, max about 2 hours. The drawbacks to her, if overused, will involve major migraines, terrible ability to focus, and won't be able to function properly until a certain amount of time has passed. Likes FaceTiming her friends, wearing matching clothes with Jack, eating, watching movies and shows, bowling, archery. Dislikes: people not saying her friends' proper pronouns, assholes not the fun kind. Some of class 1A, people not saying her lover's correct pronoun, rude people. Description: the sassy queen of the group, she'll bitch about something if she's annoyed but will not hesitate to lift your self-esteem up x 100 when she knows you need it. She's known as the social butterfly of the group. Loves being on her phone. The intervention hero, Interlove 8 name, 𝗓𝗫𝗁 age, 16-18 gender, non-binary pronouns, they them sexuality, demisexual status, taken by 𝗬𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗲 name, 𝗓𝗫𝗁 age, 16-18 gender, non-binary pronouns, they them sexuality, demisexual status, taken by 𝗬𝗬𝗧𝗵𝗲's quirk, mirror. They can travel, interact and coexist with the mirror. They has a reflection which acts as clone of them. Their clone essentially has his personality but spends their time inside the mirror's world. Drawback: if there's too many mirrors at once, they lose sight on who's a reflection and on who's the real one. If they overuse their quirk, they become fatigued and drained, possibly getting injured, resulting in cuts that look like it was made by glass shards. Likes vaping, their friends, skateboarding, playing music, games, being on their phone, being a goof. Dislikes: a mirror house, Lily, people not saying their correct pronoun, assholes not the fun kind. Some of class 1, spicy food. Description: their quirk was made fun of as a kid, but when they met Izuku and their other friends, they showed his bullies how terrifying a game of Bloody Mary could be. They're known for being the goofball of the group, many knowing them as the reflection hero. Shards: Izuku got off the plane, his father being crowded immediately by reporters while he was immediately tackled by 2 of his best friends. Faith was one of them. She had dark brown and maroon-hued eyes. She smiled brightly. Izuku, she yelled. The other one who tackled him was a boy who was shorter than Izuku but nearly his height, with his amber hair going from onyx to blonde. Izuku's sweat dropped at the 2. Looking up, he saw his other pals and gals. Sean and Jack looked amused, both of the black-haired boys trying to stifle a smirk but still holding a smile. Sally and Lily were smiling, not minding the 2's antics since they also missed their best friend. However, Izuku couldn't see a particular pair of amethyst eyes. He frowned until a sudden tired voice from behind him making him flinch. "I'm over here," Parker said, his black mask covering his mouth, but every single one of them could tell that he had a smile. Izuku brightened up. "It's been a while, guys. I'm here permanently now," he said. The 17s cheered at their friend who just arrived. "What the F happened to the hangout since when I last came here for summer?" Izuku asked. In disbelief, the underground base his father gave them was casually in shambles. Paper was torn up, the vending machine was on the floor with multiple dents in it and a lot of broken items on the ground. Sally looked at Izuku apologetically. I tried to stop them. Trust me, I did, she said, trying not to be a victim of Izuku's nagging. 2 hours later, Hisashi walked in to ask Izuku something only to see Jack carrying large trash bags, going in the mirror and out, repeating the same process. Sally, Sean and Parker were also helping clean, while on the wall, you could see Faith, Wesley and Lily upside down with duct tape on their mouths and their bodies taped to the wall. Hisashi, not wanting to interact with his son who's currently in mama mode, just quietly walks away. Izuku was supervising the whole cleaning process. After an hour, the whole room had been cleaned and refurbished. Now he was satisfied, so he let the three finally off the wall. My limbs feel numb, Faith said, pouting, her girlfriend giving her a mini massage. Wesley and Lily look at each other before smirking. My limbs are so numb, Wesley said, dramatically falling. Oh no, let me massage you, my princess, Lily said, catching Wesley and pretending to massage him. Sally put her hands over Faith's eyes before Faith's quirk could activate. Shut the F up, Sally said, her sweet voice and smile contradicting her words. Izuku, Sean, Jack and Parker just stood at the sidelines, watching the whole show. Guys done? Sean asked, after the four stopped their shenanigans. They nodded. Wesley, being the childish little SHT he is, rolled onto Izuku and asked, what do we do now? He said, dragging on the now. Izuku looked up and shrugged. Wanna get wasted? He asked, his group immediately agreeing. Class 1A. Zero got a notification from his phone. He looked at Mina, Kaminari, and Shinso, who all looked at their phones too. After Izuku had moved, Shinso was moved to Class 1A. Much to his displeasure, Shinso, Kaminari and Mina walked up to Zero and all of them looked at the post. It was from Izuku's main account. They laughed. Liked by brothers before hose, daddy mirrors, and 234,123 more. Lily at Mr. Hotshit, sir, get the F down and let us play. Drunk. Izuku's hogging the playground again. View all 2K comments. Mr. Hotshit, I didn't _. Lily, you're drunk but wouldn't even let me near it. Brothers before hose, he didn't let you near it but he let us. Daddy mirrors. Sean, STFU. Mina. Jack, stop being a simp. Mr. Hotshit, finally someone said it. Thank you. Mina. Kaminari laughed. Man, I'm so jealous. Zero said, he wasn't allowed to smoke since someone might see him. Shinso nodded, missing the taste of alcohol. Do you think Dad and Pops would let us get some? Shinso asked, looking at the three. Mina leaned on Zero's desk. Let's ask them later. I need some, she said, not realizing the curious stares at them. Uraraka looked at Bakugo. Do you know what they're talking about? She asked. He fumed. Why the hell would I know, round face? He yelled, now making it obvious that they were listening. In the four rolled their eyes and continued their conversation. The yellow blob on the floor walked towards them and patted Shinso's head. I can get a pack, but that's it, he said. Shinso and Zero's eyes sparkled before thanking Dadzuwa. Mina and Kaminari laughed at the two's excited thanking. I still got some cans. Mina, Kaminari said. Mina now also being very excited. Todoroki couldn't help but be curious. No, the rest of 1A were curious on what they were talking about. Izuku Midoriya's school account. Sleep-deprived Shinso, Hitoshi. Shinso Kaminachu, Denki. Kaminari. Mina Ishido. Tape dude. Zero Hanta. Mr. Hotshit, Izuku Midoriya's main ACC. Stop breathing. Parker Williams. Sally's vampire. Faith cult. Faith's angel. Sally Winshin. Satanist spawn. Wesley Contier. Lily Summers. Brothers before hose. Sean Wolf. Daddy mirrors. Jack Luren. Liked by Mina, Mr. Hotshit, and 4K more. Kaminachu about to fry a stuffed cat. ISTG. View all 340 comments. Mr. Hotshit, Elio got cock-blocked by a stuffy tape dude. Zero, damn my mans, that's sad. Kaminachu, shut it you single virgin, stop breathing. Did Cammy just admit he wasn't a virgin? Surprised face. Sleep-deprived Shinso, damn right he isn't. Kaminachu, liked by Lily, Faith's angel, and 8K more. Satanist spawn. These hoes really acted how they wanted their wedding to be, and I'm proud since I better be the ring bearer at . Lily at Daddy mirrors. View all 2K comments. Brothers before hose, proud to say that I didn't push them off the roof. Daddy mirrors. Wow, thanks. Brothers before hose, you're welcome. Sally's vampire, my wedding gift is 20-piece chicken nuggets. Lilt, cheapskate. Sally's vampire, Beach. I said 20, not 10. Liked by Satanist spawn. Brothers. Liked by Satanist spawn. Brothers before hose, and 7K more. Faith's angel currently going up again. Let's all party later, friends. View all 3 2K comments taped 𝗬𝗪𝗧𝗏. Lucky, wish we could join but we're in Japan brothers before hoes. We hang out during the summer, but yeah wish y'all were here too 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Can I just expose how slow Jack climbed Daddy Mirrors? STFU Gremlin Sally's vampire. Why are you two commenting instead of talking when we're next to each other? Lily. Let them be LMAO liked by 𝗵𝗲, 𝗕𝗵𝗄, and 10K more liked by 𝗵𝗲, 𝗕𝗵𝗄, and 10K more Lily at 𝗵𝗲. Found this in my gallery. View all 29K comments 𝗵𝗲. Yes, I totally forgot about that, but yes, Mr. Hotshit. Oh yeah, that when the two of you almost got run over sleep-deprived Shinso. Basically every summer stop braiding. Yup, Daddy Mirrors. Looks amazing as usual. Lily. OFC, we ain't no rags on the street. 3 liked by Mr. Hotshit, stop breathing. And 98K more Sally's vampire. My girlfriend is so pretty. Smiling face with heart eyes. Smiling face with heart eyes. View all 75K comments Daddy Mirrors. Yeah, pretty sure all the people you guys accidentally scared thought so too. Sally's vampire. This ain't about them. Face with rolling eyes. Mr. Hotshit. LMAO y'all acting like urban legends haunting the abandoned construction site. 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Hold up, you two went and you didn't invite us. Faith's angel. It was a special night. Faith's angel. And you all were passed out. Izuku woke up to the loud banging on his door, groaning. He tried to ignore it by blocking his ears with his pillows. Izuku, get the F up. Today's your first day of school. Izuku groaned louder. NOF school. He yelled back, wanting more sleep. Not even 2 seconds later, his door was broken down and there stood a smiling Sean with a bucket of water. Okay, I'll get up. Put the bucket down, Izuku said. Shotting up from his bed and rushing to his closet, Sean laughed, walking to the living room to wait for Izuku like the others were doing. Finding something nice but comfy was Izuku's fashion choice, grabbing black sleeveless turtleneck shirt with ripped jeans along with his earrings and pocket chains. Luckily, his school didn't have uniforms. He'd kill someone if he had to wear another tie for school. Told ya he'd take a few minutes. Damn it. Now I lost money. Why'd I say he'd take an hour? Faith grumbled, giving Jack $10. Sally smiled gently. Let's get going, she said, hurrying the others, saying goodbye to Izuku's parents who just laughed at their antics. Everybody shut up, Mrs. Peyton said, slamming her hand on the board. When the class finally piped down, she smiled. Okay, Izuku, you can come in now, she said calmly, as if she didn't just snap at the class 2 seconds ago. Izuku walked in, the class awed at him. Some kids recognized him from last summer's technology tournament. Not to mention everyone knew that the transfer was the leader of the school's most respected group of students. Hello. My name is Izuku Midoriya. I'm a certified mechanic. Nice to meet you, he said, a bit awkward since he hasn't introduced himself in a long time. Izuku thought this school was going to be similar to UA, having prejudice against quirkless people, but it was the opposite. The students were amazed at him for being strong even without a quirk. Sally smiled like a proud mother. Our school is much better than UA. Wesley boasted. The gang was now showing Izuku around the school. During it he saw multiple gyms being used by different classes training. There were rooms for self-training for those with quirks that weren't that crowd-friendly. Izuku was particularly interested in the lab. Multiple students were experimenting on different robots and substances. Izuku felt relieved. This school already took his heart without him even realizing it. Students were competitive but weren't sore losers. There were a bunch with terrible attitudes but good hearts. All in all, it was amazing. Time passed quickly and it had already been 5 months since he'd start school in America. Tomorrow was the day many had been waiting for. It was the school festival. It was decided that a tournament would be held along with the festivities like cafes, stalls, plays, etc. Izuku's class was going to be doing a walkthrough experience. An out-of-the-world attraction, one would say. Speaking of which, let's see how the class is preparing for tomorrow. Is Peyton the props on fire? Yeah, fantastic, Izuku laughed. Their class had everything prepared but they wanted to make last-minute extra props for their costumes, but of course, it wasn't smooth sailing. The past 2 weeks were hectic. Wesley and the vice president of the class were constantly butting heads about the music choice. Lily and the other social girls were trying to get the guys to wear dresses, and there were a few times that explosions happened. Brunhard Academy was a prestigious school. It produced multiple amazing American heroes, but on the other side of the coin, it was also a school that possessed multiple law-breaking citizens. Citizens as in not just students but the staff as well. It was the type of school that didn't really care about something unless it was life-threateningly serious. Bullies or infighting wasn't really an occurrence at this school because everyone behaved as if it was a very close-knit family of course. That doesn't mean it was a very morally ethic school, as it was previously stated. This school has law-breaking citizens, often having school wars with other schools to see who's the strongest. School wars, the monthly brawl between 5 representatives for each school. It's a tournament of sorts that people look forward to. It wasn't really a prize thing, but whoever won had bragging rights, and that was enough to make people lose their SHT the first 2 months. Izuku didn't participate in the school wars because he was yet to be informed about it, but the 3rd month, when he knew about it, became a thirsty animal who used his precious machines to send another student to the emergency room. Yeah, not the prettiest sight to see. Jack, do you have the what the F are you holding? Mrs. Peyton asked, staring at the teen who was now carrying a box. What would you do if I found a box of potential class pets? The whole class stood in silence. What's in the box, Jack? You know what's in the box. Just a day before the festival, Class A had acquired a class pet. Jack, keep the demon pest in control, Faith yelled. Current location. On top of the cabinets. The class president laughed gently, picking up a small puppy and caring for it. Jack, on the other hand, tried to possess Faith even more by making dog noises. Parker somehow had popcorn during this whole scene, just enjoying the chaos with Sean, who was drinking some cola. Mrs. Peyton sighed. My class is SHT, she said, smirking. Lily giggled. We're your SHT class though, she said, earning a pat on the head by the teacher. Yeah, good luck tomorrow, you crackheads, she said, fixing her glasses before going in to stop the chaos. Lily couldn't help but laugh. Oh, I can't wait for tomorrow. The halls were bustling with loud voices. Citizens and students from other schools were at the festival, enjoying the different varieties of activity. Currently, Izuku was trying to bob for apples, his jaw currently hurting as he failed for the 3rd time. The others, except Parker and Sally, were trying to see if they could do it. The moment Wesley cheered, the red apple dropped out his mouth and into the water. God damn it, the shorter boy exclaimed before pouting on the ground next to Izuku, who had also given up. The reason they were trying to hard was the prize. The game was whoever could get the 1 green apple out of the 50 red ones would win a prize. The prize was $30 so far. The ones who have succeeded in bobbing for apples all caught red ones. Parker looked at Izuku's distraught face and sighed. He took off his mask, used the hair tie on his wrist to tie his hair that was in his way, and plunged his head in the water. The group was shocked since Parker disliked using his energy on trivial things that he didn't care about, shocking them even further when he lifted his head and there behold, a green apple in his mouth. The gang cheered for their soft-spoken friend who won. When he got the prize money, he gave half to Izuku and half to Wesley. Dude, you won this. You sure? Izuku asked, receiving a small nod from the quiet boy. Wesley didn't take a second glance and accepted the money after thanking Parker. Jack laughed while Lily was sulking, which didn't last long because soon after, they were already at another game. Minutes before their class attraction, they started rushing to their class. The guests could walk through 2 doors. Door 1 was Jack's half of the class's group was. The guests would fall into Jack's mirror realm, walk through a path, and get to the other side where students were using their quirks to make them fly, float, sparkle, etc. Door 2 was Izuku's group's door. When people walked in, they were awed at the puppies and other sweet little animals. Of course, they didn't have the budget to buy multiple animals for this one day, which was why the class president's illusion quirk was so handy. After the 2 groups, there was a section which both groups of guests walk into, and the ending part of the attraction was a room that was split into half. Half was for the ones who wanted to play games, since half the room was covered in arcade machines. The other half was for those who wanted to relax after a loud and rough day at the festival. It had massage chairs, comfy bean bags, a food section, and an ice cream bar. At the end of the day, Class A was exhausted. Jack was on the floor since he went a bit over his limit. The half of the class that wasn't exhausted were pigging out at the food section. Mrs. Peyton smiled. Well done, kiddos, but remember to rest up for tomorrow's tournament. I want to see you guys dominate first place, she said. The class having little energy to cheer but still nodded. Class had already ended and the 8 idiots were too tired to move their butts out of Mrs. Peyton's classroom. Izuku called his dad to pick them up, and funnily enough, Hisashi did pick them up, putting the 8 in a wagon that was attached to the car. Not gonna lie, they enjoyed the nice wagon ride. The air was nice. They were all comfortable in the pretty good-sized wagon, and of course kids who were looking through their windows were jealous at them who were just sitting in a wagon, getting dragged by a fancy car. Sean thought it was a good idea to take a pic, Not even a second later, almost dropping their phone, which luckily, Izuku caught when Hisashi arrived at their house. He looked at the wagon and saw 8 sleeping teens. He stared at them with an amused face, raising his hand. The butler nodded and placed them all in Izuku's room, where they continued to sleep peacefully. The next was greeted with a loud, "Woo, who's ready to break some bones? Today's the day of the tournament. Show some school spirit, phoenixes." The school announcer screamed. Izuku couldn't help but smiled. The loud redhead staff member reminded him of his past English teacher. With a more violent touch, the school erupted in cheers. Multiple students, teachers, parents, and outsiders were excited for the tournament. 𝗵𝗃 Academy's school mascot was a phoenix, the powerful symbol of incinerating all in its way. First up, we got 𝗵𝗃's Class A's newest addition. Give it up for Izuku Midoriya. The crowd were cheering. You didn't even need to pay attention to hear Hisashi's voice. 𝗕𝗏𝗃 but son. Inko felt embarrassed but at the same time happy at her husband's antics. Going against Izuku is Class A's president, Dylan Rogers. Dylan was the nice, prince-like character in the school. He was Class A's reliable president. Izuku felt a brotherly connection considering both of them had green broccoli-like hair. By the few months it's been, Izuku knew his classmates' quirks. Dylan's quirk was enhancement. Using his quirk, he can enhance his senses, strength, or his skills. It was a basic but relatively strong quirk. Depending on how he uses it, he can only enhance 2 parts of himself at the same time before stopping to 𝑠w's or 2. Rest. 3, 2, 1. The battle commenced. Dylan smiled nicely. Izuku returned the smile. The whole crowd went quiet as if trying to understand why the 2 teens were giving closed-eyed smiles instead of fighting. As soon as a spectator was about to speak, Dylan immediately rushed forward. His quirk was already in effect, speeding himself towards Izuku. Izuku was quirkless and he already informed the school about his machines, which is why the moment Dylan was about to punch Izuku, the green-haired protagonist tapped his heel, a bright green barrier showing up and repelling Dylan's punch. Dylan flew back but landed on the ground with his quirk, enhancing his gravitational force to stop him from flying out of the platform. He looked at Izuku. The barrier was from Izuku's shoes. The shoes were functioned to create a barrier that can defend against physical attacks. When he tapped his feet, Izuku raised his hand. In a flash, a large metal dog had jumped down from the sky. Dylan knew what that dog was. It was Ori. Izuku would often ask for Ori's help when the class was doing major 𝗕𝗏𝗏 movement procedures, and despite being made out of metal, was really fluffy. Izuku, you wouldn't, Dylan said, eyeing his fellow broccoli boy, who replied with a smirk. With a swift movement of the wrist, Ori rushed at Dylan at full speed. Sparks of lightning could be seen from Ori's mouth. Dylan paled, immediately enhancing his body's ability to withstand pain and his speed. Ducking down, he ran ahead and tried to jump over Ori, who in turn changed their path of running and jumped up, his mouth latching onto Dylan's leg. Izuku couldn't help but let out a sadistic smirk. Ori was only one of his creations, and Dylan knew that he also knew that Izuku wouldn't let him lose until he went all out. That was the type of person Izuku Midoriya was, a sadistic bastard who liked pushing people to their limits to grow. Dylan winced. Even with his pain resistance elevated, he still felt the bite that had an aftertaste of electricity. Ori opened its mouth, Dylan successfully landing without tumbling, and enhanced his body's natural healing. Even by a bit, enhancing his BLD cells wasn't his strongest point, so it was going to take more than a few seconds. While doing that, he enhanced his strength and punched Ori. The crowd were invested in the fight. Dylan, who was quite strong, almost limping because of one metallic bite. It interested the crowd. Izuku clapped his hands. Come on, Dylan. Stop having fun and fight. We're the first fight of the day, gotta make an impression, he said, smiling as he knew Dylan had barely started. Dylan nodded, speeding up his healing and switching his focus on enhancing his skin's durability and his agility. Running faster than before, he managed to get to Izuku's barrier once again, landing a hit and making a slight dent on the bright green dome. Ori turned around and ran towards Dylan, who in turn did a backflip and switched his enhancement on skin durability to strength, landing a powerful hit on Ori. The metal dog now falling, and his back was pierced through that you could see the wiring, bearings, and the other components. Izuku let a small frown grace his lips. Ori's my pup, he thought sadly before speaking. Project number 93. Assist me, he said, a new robot appearing. It was a human-like figure who held a rapier. Although Izuku liked fighting, He wanted to test out his new creations and the improvements on the pre-existing ones. Dylan. Sweat dropped. Can I catch a break? He joked at Izuku, who shrugged. The rapier-wielding robot took a stance before lunging at Dylan. The class president took a stand before enhancing all his current focus on his strength alone and rushing in to break the robot. Izuku kept this in mind. Focus on strength and your defense, he said, before whistling. A silent order he made for his robot to finish the battle. The rapier grazed Dylan's arm, switching its handle from the rapier to grabbing Dylan's torso and twisting its waist to throw Dylan out of bounds. Dylan flew out, his back colliding with the wall. "Ow, wow, Izzy, you can't be so mean and give me pointers," he pouted, getting up from the ground to see the spot he was thrown. It had a huge dent. The crowd cheered. First battle's winner, Izuku Midoriya and his support machines. Announcer Moby screamed in the microphone. Hours went on, multiple fights took place. All of Izuku's fights were won with him moving his spot. A lot of students respected him for his ability to create such machines, but a student from another school stood up and screamed, "Coward! You can't win without your robots. Pathetic." The once loud and bustling arena went silent. Izuku's friends, parents and classmates were about to refute the student when Izuku grabbed a megaphone, since he wouldn't be heard from all the way down there, and said, "Then come here and fight me." Even through the megaphone's filter, Izuku's voice felt like a cold void. Some in the arena felt the silent malice he was emitting, while others prayed for the unimportant student. The student from the other school smirked. She was one of the top students in Brunhart's enemy turf, Crystal High. Honestly, Izuku cringed at the name. That he was happy he rejected the recommendation for it. Izuku wasn't no simp, girl or boy. He'd teach anyone a lesson to show them who's above. Remy Douglas, the girl who wanted to prove that Izuku was nothing without his machines. Izuku didn't know her quirk since he didn't know her, and frankly, he wasn't interested in knowing her considering her rude attitude. The announcer coughed. "So, new challenger. This girl from another school versus Izuku Midoriya, who will only be using weapons," he announced. Hisashi quietly contacting his lawyer. Inko slapped Hisashi's hands. "We're not taking down a whole school for this. Contact that girl's family though," Inko said with a smile. Izuku grabbed the nearest weapon available, a knife, and he wore black gloves that had an almost unnoticeable bulk to it. "Is that it? You must be overconfident and arrogant if you think you'll be able to scratch me with a mere knife." She laughed. Izuku couldn't help but wonder why she's talking. 3. They got in position. 2. Remy's back started molding a small dent. Izuku gripped the knife with a carefree expression. 1. Both rushed towards each other. Izuku's eyes were that of a beast looking at its prey. Remy's back had grown out 8 spider legs. Izuku didn't hesitate or falter, jumping onto the air and landing on Remy's shoulders. The landing made Remy fall to her knees before using her extra limbs to charge at Izuku, attempting to pierce him. Izuku dodged each and every attempt and swung his arm, grazing her cheek before forcing his wrist down, piercing her leg before Remy could even scream. He had already roundhouse kicked her in the jaw, grabbing onto her spider limbs and piercing all of them to damage it. The crowd both felt amused but at the same time a bit intimidated. Nonetheless, they cheered Izuku's side. "This is boring," he thought. Remy tried to keep going, grabbing his leg and scratching it. With her nails he used his leg that wasn't being held onto and stepped on her hand, creating a loud cracking noise, presumably from the joints of her fingers. Izuku yawned before using his left hand and grabbed her down, started twisting her extra legs. The loud crunches made the audience wince while Remy was screaming. A knife now in his hands, he used the butt of the knife, hitting her eye and using minimal of his strength to throw her limp body out of bounds. Unfortunately, he wasn't allowed to badly injure the girl, so instead of putting the girl in a near-death situation, he just taught her a lesson. "Wo Izuku Midoriya won." The silence was erased and cheering filled the air. Izuku smiled. They weren't disgusted by his actions. He raised a peace sign to the sky and the cheering got louder. The red-haired announcer looked at the panels and was shocked to see the viewer count on the screen skyrocket. In UA, Mina, Shinso, Siro and Kaminari woke up early just to see the live stream. No one else was awake, so they had the common room all to themselves. Mina was swearing nonstop when Remy started spouting. All 4 were busy glaring at the TV to realize that some of Class 1A had walked in. They didn't say anything but watched the screen where they saw Izuku with a megaphone. Bakugo scoffed as he thought that Izuku was only announcing since he possibly couldn't be fighting without a quirk until a neon pink-haired girl walked down the arena stairs and stood in front of Izuku. The official announcer screamed that the fight was about to start. Needless to say, Class 1A were shocked to see the timid broccoli boy crack and basically tear someone down to the point of tears. Tsuyu flinched when Mina stood up and cheered, "Hell yeah." Denki and Shiro joining in while Shinso just laughed on the couch. Aizawa walked down and glared before softening his gaze at the TV where it showed Izuku holding a peace sign to the air. "You did it, problem child, you showed them you don't need a quirk," he mumbled, his scarf hiding the proud smile that he had.